digitaljamsessions.com.
Hello, welcome to this Digital Jam special. We're coming at you live from ComicCon October 2016, and we are back with the lovely Kirby Fagan. We have also with us Alex Moye and Andrew Couch, and I'm going to ask you guys to very briefly explain who you are, what you do, so that everybody knows exactly what you're up to. But we'll start with you, Kirby, because you are returning.
Hi, I'm Kirby Fagan. I'm a comic book cover artist working in sci-fi fantasy and comics.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. And Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex Moye. I'm the founder of Amcade, and I run a PR and marketing agency for the video game industry.
And you was at Sony, what's been saying?
Yeah, I've worked with PlayStation, Xbox, and most recently I was at Media Molecule, working on the next game, Dreams.
Wonderful, thank you. And Andrew, why don't you explain more about Candy Lab?
Yep. My name is Andrew Couch. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Candy Lab, an augmented reality technology company that powers games to come to life in the real world that takes place outside and indoors.
Wonderful. Now, you may be able to hear a little bit of fight in the background there, and that's because we are currently sitting in the Niche arcade here at ComicCon. If you want to find out more about that, just follow at Join Niche, N-I-C-H-E, to find out more about why we have a whole bunch of game arcades around us. But in the meantime, I want to talk about one of the reasons why we're here, which is really around comics, and we have this lovely new comic that is being launched by Marvel Custom Solutions. It is called The Unbeatables. Kirby is the artiste who has created the cover of this lovely magazine, this comic rather, and we've already kind of talked a little bit about this, but I wanted to kind of get into this in a little bit more detail, in as much as when you're doing a project like this and you are yourself somebody who lives with IBD, how important it feels for you as a well, now you are a role model for other people in the community. How does that feel?
Oh, it's incredibly special, and I took a lot of extra care in painting these characters. It's incredible to see someone like me reflected in a comic with a company as respected as Marvel.
Mm. And Alex, I want to get into this because this is one of your first Comic Cons, and I know that you've not done this before.
I've done a bajillion gaming conferences, but not very many with comics. So it's just amazing to be here, just to see the gaming scene get bigger as well, but also the intersection between that, comics, amazing films, amazing artists. So yeah, it seems like it's getting bigger and bigger every year, so it's really cool to be here today.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious though, because there is this, I suppose, perception that Comic Cons really isn't about gaming, it's about pop culture. And there's this really interesting divide between what counts as pop culture versus what counts as gaming.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because when I said Comic Con and you kind of went, it's not really gaming. And I'm curious from your perspective, now that you've seen it, now that you've seen the show floor and you've seen a couple of the stands, what your thoughts are on that as somebody who comes from the games industry.
Yeah, I think, there traditionally hasn't been a lot of gaming support because it has been more kind of focused on the cosplay and the comics, the pop culture, like you say, the films, the TV programs. But I think gradually it is growing. It is becoming much more important. You're seeing people like Troy Baker and Nolan North downstairs signing posters. There's huge presence from Bethesda. I think they're like showing some new Dishonored footage and things like that. So it's really exciting to see how it is getting bigger. And there is such a crossover. Like you rarely find someone that loves video games but really hates comics or doesn't ever watch a big series.
What about some of those costumes?
Oh my god,
so many
cosplay.
gaming costumes.
It's just absolutely blowing my mind. So I think the gaming cosplay has always been really strong here, but I think gradually you're seeing kind of like more publishers, more developers actually have a really strong presence and showing reveals and exclusives, which is going to be really cool.
Do you think there is more of an emerging respect now for cosplayers than there was perhaps previously in the past?
I think so. I think, traditionally it was maybe seen as like quite a very, very niche, no pun intended, as we're in the niche room, a very, very niche hobby. And it didn't have a lot of awareness, and there wasn't, outside of that very, very small community. But now there's, huge competitions worldwide. Every time you go to not just things like ComicCon, but at Eurogamer they've got interesting cosplay stages, other big gaming events, anything, even, particularly in America, but more and more in Europe as well, because I think traditionally it's been really strong in America and Asia, but definitely in Europe we're getting much more of the
with
same.
more pop culture at the show. It's bringing more people that maybe aren't involved in gaming or comics, but it's bringing more eyes onto it. And I find a lot of people say when they come to ComicCon, I had no idea, this is a whole new world, and it is, and it's huge. And when people experience cosplay and they see the amount of detail and time and money that these people are putting into their costumes.
And it's so
How can you
diverse.
not?
I saw loads of Disney characters. I saw a bunch of guys dressed up as like cats from the musical. So it's not just comics, it's not just games. It really is everything. And that is becoming a huge art in its own right. And I think that's really cool to see.
Although, to be fair, I do think London has managed to latch on to the whole Halloween thing for the fact that one of their shows falls in October. It's really convenient because it does fall around Halloween. So, you know, it's kind of giving us Brits the chance to do the whole American Halloween thing, because we, as adults, we don't do the dress up thing as much, I think, as Americans do. So
I know.
it's nice that
I've
we
always
get
wanted
the
an American
chance.
Halloween. I think it looks so fun.
But you're here, you're right in the middle of it. ComicCon.
It is. It's that. But I want, you know, like the trick or treating and the jack-o'-lanterns. And it's not as big here as it is in America, but I feel like it's getting with more American
Come knock on my hotel door room tonight, and I'll give you a
What an invitation. Trick or treat.
You could put some candy at one of the booths down there, and we'll do a trick or treat. Give you the experience.
Candy? What candy?
We'll go get some.
Which is a beautiful segue into Candy Labs. So I'm just really excited about Candy Labs and what you're doing. And what I'd love for you to do is just explain to our listeners a little bit more about what you're doing, because at the moment, when you say AR or augmented reality, most people are immediately going to think Pokemon. And it's kind of also interesting that your marketing director is currently wearing Pokemon slippers.
She does have the slippers
That's a
on.
complete aside. But my point is that now that you've had that watershed moment with AR, in the same way that Oculus Rift became the watershed moment for VR, and everybody, once that happened, everybody kind of knew when you said VR, the Oculus Rift thing. And even though that's not necessarily purely all that the industry is about, at least people had that watershed moment so they understood it. In the same way with AR, now when you say AR, people kind of go, oh, Pokemon Go. And even though that's not the entirety of AR, at least they have some kind of reference point now and some kind of context in which to place what that means for AR. But why don't you tell us a little bit more specifically about what Candy Labs actually does and what your engine actually does?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. While in the past, we really had went out and told the public, we have this augmented reality engine that can power these games, that can work by location, that gets people to go and interact where you want them to. And we really talked about it more from the technology side. That might be bad on us, I think, from just really being in California a lot, around a lot of tech enthusiasts. And, that was pretty much our experience for the past few years. We are thankful Pokemon Go did come out because, we, like other folks, still kind of learn as we go. And I think that really, I know, it's taught us, the importance of storytelling and the experience of like folks like yourself, what you bring, to the market. It really makes our tech somewhat irrelevant until that gets married to a really good use case. And, the better the content, the better the experience, that's when this technology really comes to life. Like, look at Pokemon Go itself. If it were to just have taken place, say, on the map, and you go and you check in, kind of like a Foursquare element, would people have gotten that immersive experience like they would seeing Pikachu come to life through the camera, the excitement that their friends get, that it's actually there in the real world? And I think that's really where the directors of the world, the content creators, the artists really can collaborate together and use the technology to power the experience. And we're finding, where we really truly sit, which is backstage, not on the front stage.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you set the backstage technology companies like ourselves, with Candy Lab, partnering with like a Marvel, with a game studio, with content creators that really perform on stage, that's what gets the audience going crazy. And that's what keeps these campaigns going month after month after month. And that's really like what we're learning right now at our company is who we're not and who we really need to support so that campaigns like Pokemon Go are just as successful throughout all the verticals in the world. Something I think that could be a lot of fun even with like the Unbeatables. Think how great that would be to be able to go and explore your neighborhood and have these experiences inside of buildings and places where folks are able to go and access that and have that experience and have it be meaningful because the storytelling is already there, the content is already there, the title itself already has came to life. You have successfully done that, Kirby. And marry that with the technology, you have a drop top experience. The technology itself, it's cool to talk about, at like tech meetups and things like that. But as far as the general public is concerned, most of them may not even know that Niantic is behind the core engine behind that title. But we all know what Pokemon does. It's fun and it lets us see Pikachu and AR and we go collect them around the city. So we're really learning kind of like everyone else. Just we happen to have the tech that powers those experiences. So it's helped us shape how we have these conversations now. And it, like I said before, lets us know where we stop and where we end. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I think is really interesting, though, is that when we look at the kind of gamification almost of these AR experiences and geolocation experiences, and I'm kind of coming back to you, Alex and Kirby, on this as well, I find it quite interesting because out of all of us, who's watched the Hunger Games? Have we all watched the Hunger Games? So we all know the concept of a game maker. Sure. Yes. I begin to wonder if we, as the content creators and the engine owners, aren't becoming a little bit more like a game maker in real life, in terms of the way that we're cultivating people's behaviours. We're driving people physically around locations and places, and we're helping them to explore and expand upon universes, creative universes that they're seeing in this alternate reality, this augmented reality that we're creating in a layer over their real life. I wonder what your perspective is on that, how you feel about the idea of being the game maker for the modern age.
I think we've always had a bit more power than I think we realize. Even look at how magazines can affect different things in our culture and just pictures alone. So the thought of having even more influence is a responsibility, I think.
Yes. Alex?
I definitely think, and kind of coming back to what you were saying as well, it's all about unlocking those experiences. And, when Pokemon Go became such a success, a lot of people were saying, well, is this going to mean that there's going to be so many more AR games out there? And I said, probably, but are they going to be any good? I'm not sure, because it really is about the content and the experience you're unlocking for the player. Because, the tech is cool, but after you've experienced it once or twice, unless there's something that keeps you coming back, that experience, in the case of Pokemon Go, unlocking that nostalgic element of, yes, I can catch them all, my God, I've wanted this for 20 years.
What about, there's a second experience that's happening in these games too. Yes, we're experiencing the game, but then we're experiencing with our friend, are in the place, and life is going to happen at those things. And I think that's what people are going to keep coming back for, is that second layer.
So we have just been joined by the lovely, and I'm going to completely mispronounce your name.
It's okay, everybody does.
Would you like to tell our listeners who you are?
Oh, which one is...
We're doing two things at once. We're recording for a podcast, audio podcast, and we're live streaming at the same time.
Hi. Enver Jokai is the way to properly pronounce it.
Okay, because we're talking about tech, and we're talking about...
God, I thought you said sex.
Tech!
I thought
Tech! Oh my God!
We're talking about sex.
Where is your brain at? Oh my goodness, where's your brain at? No, I want to talk to you about something really specific, because I hear in October of possibly 2010, you may have submitted a patent for a specific type of technology.
Oh yeah, I did.
I want to hear about this.
It's maybe not as exciting as of a conclusion as I would have liked it to be. Actually, the new iPhone, the dual cameras came out and basically lapped me.
Yeah.
But it was something that would pull focus, much higher degree of accuracy on a camera, on a motion picture camera, for all kinds of really boring reasons. When it comes to like low light and what happens to a lens, it becomes harder to pull focus. Mm-hmm. It's so boring. I mean, everybody's dead on whoever's watching.
This is what we do. We're a tech podcast. This is what we talk about. So this is actually interesting for us. We like this. This is good.
Yeah,
we're all geeks here. It's okay.
So it was having to do with stereoscopic kind of vision and pulling focus the way that your eye focuses on something, which is triangulation, and using the concept that if you know two angles of a triangle, if you know two angles and the length of one side, you can determine anything you need to know about that triangle. Anyway, Apple was on it, and they were like, so we're just going to do this much better. And
you've got the patent, so you should be tapping them up.
I don't know.
But my question is this, is now that Apple have kind of done this, do you see any potential future for your technology in things like VR and 360 film making? Because when you're using a 360 camera, there are more complexities in terms of identifying the focus and keeping that focus on an object in 360 when somebody is moving within a 360 scope.
We always knew this was a danger. Like, mine is more of a mechanical solution, and their solution is a software solution. It's a little bit more tech heavy, but more elegant. Okay. Right? And I knew that was going to happen, but I didn't see it happening so fast. I thought like maybe 10 years, but it's just like things are going just fast. Happening so quickly. Yeah. I don't know, because with all of this stuff, with 360, with all that stuff, I'm always interested in like it's one of the reasons you get a headache when I do watch the 3D with the 3D goggles, because there's like something like blurry that I want to focus on it in the foreground, but it's blurry, and my eyes think that they have the choice of focusing, but then they don't. So then I get kind of a headache. So this idea of like now it's VR and then it's like 360 VR, who actually part of photography and part of filmmaking, as we define it, is kind of choosing what it is that you get to look at. And that's the artistic choice. And you got to wonder if it's certainly an art form, but if it's even the same art form as cinematography when it becomes that.
Medium. It's a new medium that you're evolving into. And the idea that you had a frame and you were able to define that frame, but now you can't, because actually the entire environment is the frame, and it's up to the user to decide where they want to focus. But that makes it incredibly difficult as a director to ensure that everything they're looking at has that clarity.
I know everybody was real pumped about it. Everybody was like, "Oh man, this is VR and it's gonna be great. This is gonna take over." And then there was a moment when everybody's like, "Yeah. I mean, this could be really cool, right?" Like, everybody thought that it was, but then they got into it and they realized how difficult it is. Yeah. Really, an ex-girlfriend of mine works for in visual effects for video games, right? And the problem there being is when you're doing a movie and you just have one explosion going, you only have to make it look good from one angle. But then once you get into a video game, you have to be able to walk around the fire and see, and like the same thing that would look good from one angle looks like crap.
Yeah.
What's the video game she works for? It's a big MMO. What?
There's so many implications for like sound design and audio design, because I think a lot of people just assume, okay, we took things from like 4.3 to 16.9, so it's the same thing. You just take it from being non-360 to 360, or being non-VR to VR, and it's the same. But you have to really craft that experience with that medium in mind, more so probably than any other transition in new technology. It's really bespoke.
Right, I never thought about sound, but like just everything. Proximity and all that stuff, like how to...
Even think about if you want to use it to look a particular way in the story, do you have visual or audio cues to potentially kind of suggest that they go that way? If something's about to happen over this angle, you need a maybe character starting a conversation so that you're piquing your interest. It's really much more about the actual active experience of that viewer, because they do have independence and they do have a choice. But obviously, as a storyteller, a director, you want to push them in a certain direction.
But this is why theatre techniques are actually so valuable now.
Yes, completely.
It's because now we can use good old-fashioned stage techniques, a bit of light, a bit of sound behind you, and the doors opening behind you, you see the shaft of light, and so you turn. It's that stuff that actually now comes into play, because now we can redirect people's attention.
So I think game directors and theatre directors probably actually have more
immersive theatre directors are totally on it.
For live action, though, it becomes really hard though too, because you would not believe how often, you're always Hollywooding something, meaning like you go to a location and there's a beautiful cliff right here, and you're trying to make it seem like it's in the middle of nowhere, by a cliff, and like it's actually the edge of a Walmart parking lot, and we just Hollywood it so you just look like that, like this angle, and then when you turn it around, the actual turnaround's a completely different location. That stuff happens all the time. Once you get 360, then and they're always doing this stuff where they're like, okay, everything over here is in the shot. You got to move everything over here. It's in the shot. Move it that way. And so, like, you just kind of like, and everybody shuffles and they go like,
and they get for location scouts. How interesting is that going to be to find a 360 location? That's incredible.
But it would be really hard because you have to lock down an entire location. Yeah. Like, can you imagine? Like, we're just trying to make people not walk through the one shot. Like, can you imagine making people not walk through anything visible? It would be. It brings up all kinds of issues.
Tiny. Having managed to go completely off track, we should properly introduce you, because for those of you who are listening and cannot see the live stream, it's worth mentioning who you are and what you do. Would you care to name some of the shows that you're in and what you've been up to?
Hi, my name is Enver Jokai. I just finished a show called Agent Carter, where I played Daniel Souza, and you've probably seen me die on one of your favorite shows. That, or if you saw me on a Law and Order.
Dollhouse, you survived.
I did. Yeah. Dollhouse is one of the other ones that I kind of survived for a little while. And then if you see me on a Law and Order, I definitely did it.
Okay, so I want to thank you all for joining us. I know this is very impromptu. We're coming at you live from the Niche Arcade at ComicCon 2016. Remember to follow at Join Niche. But while we're here, as always, we like to give our listeners a way to find out more about you, what you're up to. We ask you to do that by sharing your social media handle of choice. So starting from this end.
Yeah, you can follow me at Amcade Games. That's AMCADE Games on Twitter.
Thank you. And Kirby?
And you can find me at Kirby, KIRBI, Fagan, FAGAN.
Okay, and just because it's my duty to do this, don't forget to check out Kirby's new comic for Marvel Solutions. It is The Unbeatables. You can find out more at the hashtag IBDBUnmasked.
For us at Candy Lab, you can follow us at Candy Lab Tweets. We'd love to have a conversation with you on Twitter.
I'm horrible social media person. You can follow me at EJOKAI, EGJOKAJ. It's like a bad Scrabble hands. But honestly, I usually, like, my picture's Tom Selleck, and there's like one picture at a time, and it's usually a picture of my dog. So probably that means don't follow. You don't want to follow.
Just watch him on TV or in the theatres. It's fine. But as always, we want to thank you for joining us and listening to the Digital Jam sessions. And if you enjoy this content, don't forget to subscribe and review, and follow us on Twitter at Digital Jam Ltd.
DigitalJamSessions.com